We've talked to a number of storytellers on this podcast, but none like today's guest. Today, we're going to speak with a man who lights up any room he enters with his music, his paintings, his writing, or just his smile. He's landed songs on Billboard's R&B charts. He's performed at the Apollo. He's shared a stage with Kanye West. He's played in front of tens of thousands of people. But Heston Francis didn't start with an audience. He started from humble beginnings in Dominica, a small Caribbean nation of about 70,000 people. These are the roots that form the storyteller he is today. He's authentic. He paints what he remembers. He performs what he feels. But above all else, he connects with people easily, be it on stage or over a cup of coffee. So today, we're not just talking to an artist and a musician. We're talking to a storyteller who found his voice and had the courage to share it with the world. So we're going to learn how he did that and who in his life helped guide the way. So welcome to the great Unfamous, Heston. People are in for a real treat today.
Thank you so much.
So let me start by saying, hey, I appreciate you joining me. And before we get going, let's just set the table. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, we interview people who lift others up. And Heston certainly fits that bill. And then we find out about the one person in their life who helped point the way. So with that, let's dive in. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, great. Heston, we've met a couple times, but it was when we had coffee a few weeks ago that it solved a mystery for me. And that is that I've seen you on several occasions in front of different groups of different people. And they love you. I wasn't sure why, but now I think I do. So it seems very easy for you to connect with people. Is it that easy for you?
It's actually not. It's actually not.
Tell me about why it seems so easy for you.
I can't answer that question because that would have to be someone else's answer. For me, I think because of how I grew up and the things that I've gone through in my life, I love honesty. Like I love authenticity. And so I connect with people who are real and there's no facade. That's where I find true connections. Like I'm not an extrovert by any means. I actually shy away, but if I get to engage with someone and the conversation is good, then it's healthy for both of us.
So an introvert that feels like an extrovert, that's a tricky balance there to find. Like
Yeah.
what advice do you have for somebody who's definitely an introvert, but has trouble making those connections with folks? What do you suggest?
Definitely networking and kind of like forcing yourself, because the response for me in any situation first is always no. I'm just like, it's hard. And I've done it for over a decade plus, but just even walking into a room, whether it's a social gathering or a business networking, I'm always like running things in my head, but definitely not comfortable. I'm definitely not, oh, let's just walk in and have a conversation and just, no, it's a lot of thoughts back in my head, worried about, is this going to go well? Is this person interested in having a conversation? It's all those things. But when I connect, it's good.
Yeah. People gravitate to you. And so I think it's that honesty and that lack of facade that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into, I would definitely want to talk about your career as an artist.
Okay.
And how you got there.
Okay.
But let's start with growing up in Dominica.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I wouldn't change a thing. So I think it's informed who I am as an adult. I grew up. My father at that time, he was the Attorney General of Dominica, a brilliant lawyer. My mom, his paralegal. It's weird because I was juggling multiple worlds. Like I was in a 90210 type of community with all the things that I needed as a kid growing up. And then my mom would always humble us and send us to our grandparents or aunts that lived in the country where you still have to like take showers outside and literally a one-room shack in that song Bob Marley talks about, a one room shack, like literally that, just boards, a floor. There's no separate areas for anything. It's literally a window. You shower outside, you collect rainwater to wash your clothes or your dishes. And so I literally had both experiences simultaneously growing up. And it just taught me a lot. And, to appreciate the small things. Even now that I go back home, sometimes I go back home to do concerts or visit, I insist on spending some time in the country and still taking the showers outside because there's something about it that connects me to the earth.
It's one thing for an adult to look back on that and see the lessons and the value of that time, but as a child, right? Because you were there until you were about 14. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
So what are the lessons that a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old takes away from that, going from 90210 to grandma and grandpa's place, which is a little different?
Well, it was a struggle. I don't know if I necessarily picked up the lessons then. I do now, but then I loved it all. We would go kicking and screaming, but my mom insisted that we, because my father passed when I was 7, so my mom had a lot of responsibility. I appreciate it. Thank you. But she insisted on that. I think probably partially just so she can get a break, because she had 3 boys, and we were not easy. So it's either that or a combination of just wanting to make sure that we valued the simple things. And I think that's the lesson as an adult that I learned, is just valuing the simple things, being able to do without, understanding that not everybody has it. And when you do get it, you can appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Grandmother and grandfather there, or one or the other?
So grandmother just passed. Grandfather passed maybe about a decade ago. But still have family in the area, because even when I go now, like I went last year, I stopped at my aunt's house. But again, so I am what's considered Kalinago Indian. Dominica, indigenous culture, is Kalinago. We used to call it the Caribbean Indians. And so I am part of that. My mom is a half, my grandmother's full. And so just like the US, or like Australia, there's the indigenous people, American Indians, or the Aboriginals from Australia. And so Dominica has the same thing. That's part of my culture as well. So, but it's just serious abject poverty. It's just very impoverished. It's dirt floors. It's, like I said, one room shacks, maybe 100 square feet, if that, piling up 6, 7 people, growing your food off the land, walking down to the mud, grabbing your vegetables and fruits, literally killing an animal in the moment to eat. So it's going from a very good existence life-wise to, it's a pretty struggle. It's a pretty struggle for those families, including mine in the countryside. My mom just happened to get lucky. Her dad took her from the Carib Reserve and brought her into the city. And he had relationships there, and that's what changed my mom's life. Otherwise, I'd probably be there still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basic food, shelter, and clothing is something we take for granted.
100%.
Every day.
100%.
So let me ask you this. You moved to the US when you were about 14?
Yep.
But you didn't really start playing the guitar seriously until you were in your 20s.
That is true.
Okay. So it seems like you pick things up without a lot of training, whether that's music or painting. Can you tell the story about Andre 3000 asking you to create a painting for his event?
So I was so Atlanta was my start for music. Well, I wouldn't say start for music, but Atlanta was when I started getting on stage and performing. And I remember being kind of like pressured into an open mic event. And that's where everything started. I started meeting a bunch of musicians who I still have relationships with today. And long story short, I built up a very strong fan base in Atlanta, Georgia. And I can't remember the name of the event, but it was an art event, which I knew nothing about, but I was, I guess, considered a local celebrity. And so they asked local celebrities from Atlanta to take part in a fundraiser. And we all had to bring a piece of art. So it's not his event, but it was an event that he was part of as well. Myself, the other Outcast members, and some other celebrities that happened to just live in Atlanta. And I probably was the one, in my opinion, that had the least recognition because everyone else was completely like successful million records sold plus. But I was asked, and I think my girlfriend is the one who bought my painting, but it sold for a few $1,000s. So that's where that started.
So, but prior to that, you had not created a painting before.
Not at all. I only did it again. It was more of a celebrity fundraiser. It wasn't about talent as a painter. So I'm sure theirs weren't amazing, or maybe they were, but I just knew mine was not at all.
Well, we're going to talk about your artwork here in a few minutes, but it's not an amateur.
Yeah,
it's incredible. It's incredible, and to see that kind of work from somebody that's not professionally trained and just picked it up on their own, you've got something in you that allows you to express yourself in a number of different ways: music, artwork. Did you take that for granted, or did you know that was special, or did you just think, no, I guess everyone else could pick up a guitar and start playing, or grab a paintbrush and work?
So I picked up a guitar maybe at 12, 13. Didn't think it was cool, so I stopped. When I picked it up again in my early 20s, when I was starting to create like an album, catalogs of music, I don't think I necessarily, I saw the value in it then. As a teenager, I just thought it just didn't look cool. Most of the people I was hanging out with at the time were just like riding motorcycles and just doing different things that artistic creativity wasn't like the most attractive thing. So I think that's what prevented me from continuing. I wish I had continued though.
So playing guitar was not cool.
No, not at that age, not in Dominica, not when I was young. No.
Got it. So, when I was listening to a couple of your prior interviews, and I think you talked about being on stage in London at Union Chapel when you said you realized, this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to that stage, to that actual event, and how did it feel different? What was it that changed?
I'm not sure because Dome Records out of the UK was my first record signing. And that was part of my first tour. And I'd been doing quite a bit in the US for a while. But as an independent artist, there are milestones that you reach, and being signed to a label was a huge one. And I remember getting the booking, researching the venues a little bit, because I'm not too much of a researcher, but, and then I remember being in the back. And so Union Chapel is an old, I think a Catholic church. I'm not 100%, but the acoustics in there are amazing. And if you're an artist, acoustics are majorly important. And just there was like a presence to that venue. And it was full. It was my show. Like everything just happened. Everything just came together, and I wasn't sitting there saying, okay, I'm opening up for someone else, so this is their crowd. There's a lot of things we as artists have to battle with. But it was major promotion from this independent label who had like major backing. So there was a lot of promotion going on in the UK about this upcoming record. That specific album was called Storyteller, which did a lot of good things charts wise, recognition wise. And so it was a big deal. But when I started singing, and that was literally the first set of people that started singing the songs along with me, like a lot of the songs. And like I do other things. I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist, but music is my first love. And so the joy that came over me that day just told me this is what I am meant to do. It was just a feeling. Like I'm meant to, and I'm not a stage hog. Like if I'm in a room and there's a stage and there's people and friends, I'm the last one. You kind of have to pry me up on stage to do anything. But if I'm delivering my music, I feel like I'm the vehicle to do that. And that's, I guess, was blessed with songwriting or arranging or production or singing. And that was the first time I found this is as close to heaven as I can get on earth. Is a stage with a band, which I feel always, I think it's like the WWF when you take your opponent and you swing them onto the ropes and then you bounce on the ropes and you do what you have to do. That's what I feel like a band who has the music together is like my support system. And when that's happening, I'm gone. Yeah. I know it's a long answer, but
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, you hear about artists saying the first time they heard their song on the radio, but you mentioning like looking out in the crowd and having people sing
yeah,
words to your songs while you're singing them. That's, I never even thought of like how inspiring that must be.
For me, writing a song to me is simple. I'm not saying that it's something that I'm just good at. I just write the songs that I've written for me. Sometimes come in a total of 5 minutes. Some may take months, but some just come in 5. And actually, one of the ones that I always close shows with is a song called Songbirds, which just explains who I am as an artist, where I come from, my influences, and thanking them. I think I wrote that in 5 minutes. So I don't know. It's just it seems effortless for me to write a song. So to watch someone else singing, but I've learned something. We all experience similar emotions, and if I am honest about something that I'm singing, then someone who operates honestly will get it as well. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, they say like when you're having a conversation with someone and they repeat back something that you said,
Mm-hmm.
right? It shows that you made a connection, right? That you guys are on the same wavelength. So musically, again, someone's repeating back to you what you've put out there.
Yeah.
Again, it's like you made a connection, you know? So let's talk about that. You've made a lot of connections, both back in your home country and here in the US. How did you go about making some of your first connections that moved your career forward? Like who were some of those first conversations? You said you built a huge fan base in Atlanta. Like how'd you do that?
Well, I think, not I think. So if you're on a local scene, so I don't know how it's taught now because things are all about social media, but you're in a small town or you're in a big city. If your desire is to go national or go international, your first job is to dominate the local market. So as an R&B soul artist, my focus was always dominating the local market. You don't have to go anywhere outside of Atlanta. But if you're the sought after artist for that genre of music, whether it's bookings or concerts or whatever it is, that was my job. So instead of waiting for anyone to do anything for me, because opening for someone is an avenue to start dominating as well, whether it's the bigger artists and some more credibility to your name to be opening up for noticeable national, international acts. But in the interim, I didn't want to wait around. So I created my own events. I started promoting my own concerts, and then I started hiring opening acts.
Nice.
Yeah. So, even if there was not much of a budget, I make sure I pay someone. I'm big on making, because it's hard work. Anything that we do is hard work. So even if whatever it was, even if the opening act was getting $100, it was something. And sometimes out of my pocket, actually most times out of my pocket, but just to keep the ball rolling. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great advice. I worked with Gary Vaynerchuk for a couple of years, and one of the pieces of advice that he used to give to folks was, if someone's an actor and they're like, well, I can't get these parts. How do I get in? How do I break in when I can't get those first roles? And his advice was always like, then write your own play, write your own movie, create your own movie, create the thing that it is that you want to do. And don't worry about if 4 people watch it. Create your opportunity. And that's how you get started.
I agree. Well, 100%.
All right. So one of the other things that jumped out to me was that when you started to get an interest in music and reading some of the influences that you mentioned, you said, in the past, your musical references, Al Green, ABBA, Barbra Streisand, Barry Gibb, but you also said that the song Say, Say, Say by Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney, like that caught your attention and flipped something in you. Can you tell me, like, what was it and how did that affect you?
So all I knew, so ever since I was a kid, my mom sang in church. On the weekends, if my brothers are playing, I was always hanging out with her, helping her rehearse, learn the lines. And that was always fun for me. But I didn't know how much of a love for music I had. I was always singing. My mom would tell me I was always singing, running around, always singing. But I just knew the day that I saw Say, 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 and I heard the voice and I heard the delivery, and I could do a pretty good Michael Jackson when I was younger. I don't do it as much, but I used to learn songs like She's Out of My Life, just so that, because it's very slow. So I wanted to make sure I had clarity and tone and all of that. So I navigate more to the slower songs, because fast songs are easy if you can just kind of rush through it. So, but when I saw that video for the first time, something flipped, it clicked. I wanted to sit on the back of the truck, wherever they were going. I wanted to go. And it just made me want to do that. Whatever that was, I didn't know because I was so young, but I wanted to do that. I knew that after that video.
It was the video more than the video as much as the song.
The video as much as the song. So whatever they were doing, I wanted to be able to do it, like sing together in a music video. Whatever they were doing, I wanted to do it. But of course, it's the song that moved me. And, I had a friend ask me the other day, I think she was kind of like joking around, but I was on my way to an art and music exhibit in Connecticut. And she was like, you look like like a person who'd have a personal car, a personal driver to your events, or just the frou-frou stuff that I'm so not into.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what I was doing? I was rehearsing for the concert portion, and I'm sure I looked crazy because someone would be driving by looking at me singing extremely loudly in the car, but with the safety of the windows up, because the level of joy that music brings me. And sometimes I forget, because now I pick and choose the venues that I do or the concerts that I do. So it's not like I'm in concert every day, every week, but the joy that I get from being able to deliver the music the way I want to and relearning the songs, because I'm not someone who listens to my music at all. I don't want, if you ask me to play a song in front of you, I'll make an excuse. I'll send you a link. You can listen on your own. Because for me, my ear is very critical. And I'm like, I could have hit that note a little bit better. Or the pause could have been longer. I'm always critical. But while I'm rehearsing and I was driving to Connecticut, if you captured me, you would just see pure joy. Music for me is different. It's not about getting on stage, but it's delivering the music. So, yeah.
It's connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very hard to explain. And if you have a passion for something, that's the closest I can say. Whatever your passion is, what I feel with music, it's a love for it. Oh, it's that thing. You remember, this is the thing that I would do if I never got a dime for it, without question. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think people can definitely relate to that, whether it's working with dogs or
exactly
telling stories or whatever it is that you would do. And that's what this is for me. Like, I would interview and tell people stories all day.
Right.
That's all I would do. Well, talk to me a little bit about your artwork too, because again, I think one of your other interviews, somebody referred to this. And if you remember the show Good Times,
Mhm.
and you remember the opening scene when they're
Oh,
painting
yes,
through
yes,
that
yes,
artwork at the
yes.
beginning, I always
The
thought that was
earring.
so cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That artwork, and they said like your artwork kind of reminded him of that.
Right.
And when I saw your artwork, I was like, it's unfair that somebody should be talented musically and artistically like that. But
Well,
it's
that's no reason.
incredible that you create that and you haven't had any kind of formal training at all.
No. I wish I could flip the the interview right now because I'm working on a piece. And so a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, there's gesso that you put on a canvas before you start to paint. It's just I don't even know what it is because again I don't have formal training, but it's kind of like a base coat before you start to paint. And for 3 weeks, the thought in my mind was I need to, because I have a series called Roots, My Story to Tell, which is me being born in the Caribbean, having experienced my first 12, 13 years in and living on an island, and all of the memories that are etched in my mind constantly. Now I put on canvas. So Roots, My Story to Tell is about growing up in the Caribbean on a broader scale and what that would have looked like back then. And then yesterday afternoon, for some reason, I had not wanted to paint for weeks, which is somewhat unusual, but not surprising because my whole life in that way seems random. But then all of a sudden, I thought of a woman in the window from a posh hotel looking down on the streets of her childhood home, which is in the Caribbean. So it's a different perspective because I even experienced going back home from a hotel room vantage point versus what it feels like when you're actually living in society. So it's like, although I'm a citizen, I'm also a guest and I live like a guest. So it's a woman from a window looking into the streets of what she would have, what she's witnessing now at her later age in life, but more of a guest. And I called it When We Were Young. So that's kind of like how things happen because it's like there's no plan, it's just you have a vision and you make it happen. And that's the joy for me when it comes to painting.
Yeah. That's that vision of her kind of looking back at where she came from and her past and where she is now.
Yeah.
And a lot like we all do. Like you said,
Yeah.
those lessons that you learned when you were 12 and 13, like you're like,
Yeah.
I don't need any lessons. I'd
Right.
rather stay in the nice neighborhood with all the comforts of home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you look back on it because so many of those lessons, you don't realize them. You don't really understand them until later. You rarely understand them when you're going through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You only understand them most often, like when you look back, like, oh wait, that makes sense that didn't work.
Yeah.
Or that did work.
Life is very interesting that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we talked how many people you've connected with and all the different types of connections you made, both in person and through music and through artwork. But of all those relationships and looking back at the people that are still with us today, is there one who stands out for you that was the right person, the right place, the right time that changed the direction of your life?
So I hope this doesn't disappoint you, but the person that I've finally realized came to mind is no longer alive.
Oh, let's talk about that person. Then I'm going to ask you for another one.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so
That's okay.
I was 7. My great grandmother, her name is Nellie, was 101, and she would constantly lie that my mom didn't feed her lunch or feed her dinner, feed her breakfast. And after noticing that for a while, I started getting frustrated and kind of being short with her. I don't think disrespectful because that wouldn't have been allowed, but my not wanting to engage with her, or maybe if she called me, maybe ignored her and walked by because I knew she was lying on my mom. And that bothered me. As I grew older and I realized she had dementia, now I get it. And it's literally changed my life to now learn the whole story, look at things from someone else's perspective, be open and not just make judgment quickly. And it may sound crazy, but still today, like if I even remotely see someone being disrespectful to an elder, I will, especially if it's a kid, I want to make sure, like, listen, the value, you have no clue. Please just don't waste it. But it's taught me how to treat people. I think that's where I think the level of empathy that I know I naturally have comes from there, because I'm constantly thinking, if I had the opportunity to go back again, I would have done it differently. And I don't want to ever have to do that again. And so, in a lot broader way, just the way I navigate through life, if you say that I draw people to me, I know that is what is part of it, is what that lesson taught me not to do is I think the biggest impact on my life.
That's great. We learn from the things that we do correctly. We learn from the things we do incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you can't go back and change that with your great grandma, but you can take that lesson and you can deploy it 1,000 times going forward. And that's the best way to honor your great grandmother.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I love that. And, to think about those things, the things that we complain about having to do, I believe that there's very few things that we do in the course of our day to day,
right,
that there's going to be some point in our life, there's going to be some point in the future when you would beg to be able to do that thing that you're complaining about right now.
Exactly.
Right. Whether it's like help a relative move, or, go fix a fence, or go to a charity event, or help out at church, or whatever it is, whatever you're complaining about, it's almost impossible to imagine a time in the future when you're like, oh man, I can't even walk. So I would kill to walk my dog right now in the rain.
Right.
And to think like almost everything you get to do is a privilege.
100%. And I think I can say, and I feel for me, you have it. I know I have it. There's something that has gotten unlocked in your life that allows you to feel everything. You see and you feel and you identify what needs to get done, and in whatever capacity that you can contribute, you're able to do that. But to navigate life the way I choose to learn from things, one to do better, one to add, one to, just show grace, show empathy, all of those things for me. I don't know when and what happened. And there's things that's happened through my life that allows me to now look at things a little bit different. I just appreciate people, and to the things that we discuss, like I'll give people, I'm happy to give. The moment I find someone that I haven't given them their flowers, especially after our conversation, I do it. But I do it naturally anyway. But it kind of just like propelled something in me to dig a little deeper and make sure that you just say thank you. I love the way that I look at things. I don't have all the answers, but that conversation that we had was brilliant. It was one of the best things I had done in a while. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad you found value in that. And the one thing I'll say, like when I ask people that question, who's the person that's still with us that had the biggest impact on your life? Almost everybody says the same thing. They say, "Oh, I wish you'd talked to me a year ago. Oh, I wish you'd talked to me 6 months ago, because there was this really great person who's no longer with us." And I said, I got that. We can talk about that. But I guarantee you, there's a person in your life right now who 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, you're going to say, "Oh man, I wish I had taken that opportunity to talk to that person." And that's what I always try to encourage people to do, is like, you're going to think about the person that's no longer here. And that's great. But I would challenge you to think about the person that is still here, because the impact that can have by giving that person their flowers is amplified exponentially.
So that would be my brother, but it's in a different way. It's the way he lives his life is something that motivates me on a regular basis. But I
Okay.
also give him his flowers all the time. So I'm already in practice of doing that. And now for me, I'm just have to be in practice of doing that with all of the important people in my life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what's your brother's name?
Kelvin.
Kelvin. Okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, certainly he needs his flowers, but it's also good for other people to hear you giving your brother. Because, like, you know what? I haven't really called my sister lately. I gotta call my sister, and it just, those are the kind of things that prompts. It prompts other people to think about things that they're not that hard to do, that mean a lot,
Right.
and they mean a lot more than you think they do.
Right.
And that's the purpose of this podcast.
And I think it's brilliant work, man. I got to give it up to you. I just think it's just great work.
Well, I'm sure you have impacted a lot of people that you have not heard from, right? But that their lives are significantly different because they had the chance to spend time with you. Let's say when you're gone, right, and you're playing jazz, R&B, up at the pearly gates here.
Right.
What's the one thing you hope people will remember about Heston Francis?
That's a serious question. That I was kind. Yeah. That I was kind. The funny thing is, if I find someone that has a good heart, there's so many questions you're able to answer around that you can just check off. If someone has a good heart, there's a lot of things. And if I could be remembered as someone who had a good heart and was kind, then I'm good.
All the other implications fall into place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, look, Heston, you've been really generous with your time. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Let's imagine that there's a young musician or an artist who's listening today, and they see all the brilliant, talented creators that are out there and think, I could never be that good. They must have something special that I don't have. What could that person do that would make you proud of them?
So I had a voice coach named Jan Smith, and kid you not, she was in Atlanta. Usher would walk through the doors. Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20, you name it. She is still. Her name is Jan Smith. Jan Smith of Jan Smith Studios. One of the most sought after voice coaches, and she told me, if you're authentically you, your crowd will find you. If you're trying to work to grab everybody's crowd, it's not going to work. If you're fully, truly, authentically yourself, you can find your space in music.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. Well, Heston, I really appreciate the time you've taken to share both your background and how you got there, lessons you've learned, and your advice for other folks that are walking a similar path. Thanks for your time. I often talk about different people I've met, but somebody with your gift for positivity, for art, for human connection it's rare. It's not that common. And thanks for everything that you contribute back to the world around us.
I really appreciate you having me. Again, none of this would have happened if you didn't spark that question, which I think is so vital. I think the work that you're doing is amazing. I am honored and happy to be here and have this level of conversation. So thank you to you.
Well, there you have it from the legend, Heston Francis. Take those lessons that you learned today, put them into action. Create your own event, make those connections, and find your group. Don't worry about other people's groups. Grab yours and make a real connection and be your authentic self. That's the way to do it, according to Heston. And I know I'm gonna take that one to heart as well. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate you and your time.
Likewise. Thank you.